Alright guys, so in this video I'm going to be going through the last 8 or 9 NFL seasons and looking for quarterbacks who only started a single game in their NFL careers, at least until this point. Now, we are dealing with more and more injuries when it comes to quarterbacks, so we're seeing just some random no names start. And I thought it would be a kind of a funny thing to go back because being named an NFL starting quarterback, even if it's just for a week, it's a very exclusive title. And let's go back to last year when the Rams were sitting right around 3-8 and they started Bryce Perkins, yes, the quarterback from Virginia, the dual threat on the road in Kansas City. They lost this game 26-10. Bryce Perkins goes 13 of 23, 100 yards only, one touchdown, two interceptions. He is a dual threat. He's got the 9 carries for 44 yards, but yeah, this is when the Rams were really down bad. They didn't even have their first round pick. Matt Stafford was injured, and they were just losing all these games, not even trying to tank, dealing with all the injuries, and Bryce Perkins had to fill in for a game. He is still lingering around the NFL, but I don't know if he's ever going to get another chance to be a starting quarterback, even if it is only for a game. The next random starting quarterback, Anthony Brown from Oregon. Yes, I remember Anthony Brown transferring to Oregon, had a pretty good senior season there. They ended up losing the Pac-12 championship game. He threw like 2 or 3 interceptions. But in this game against Cincinnati with Joe Burrow, the Ravens had no one. Lamar Jackson was injured. Tyler Huntley was injured. They end up starting Anthony Brown, and he attempts 44 passes, 286 yards, completion percentage under 50%, and also 2 interceptions. Isaiah Likely, believe it or not, had a very good game, 8 catches for 103 yards. That might have been one of his first good games in the NFL, kind of an early breakout. But yeah, Baltimore at this point at 10-7, dealing with the injury last year to Lamar Jackson. It was tough, and Anthony Brown had to fill in for a single game. He didn't perform very well, the 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. The next one, it is Trace McSorley, the Penn State legend, the ultimate college quarterback, going to a few different teams. He was with the Steelers, the Patriots recently, but you can see he did start a game for the Arizona Cardinals a few years ago. He went 24 of 45, 217 yards, and an interception. I believe he was originally first with the Ravens, then went to the Cardinals, then went to the Patriots. I think that's how it worked out. But yeah, you can see this game went to overtime with the Buccaneers. You would think Trace McSorley, I'd give him another start. Going to overtime with Tom Brady. I mean, at that point, Tom Brady was pretty washed. You can take a look at his numbers. Leonard Fournette randomly had a really good receiving game in that one. But Trace McSorley, the Penn State legend, actually starts a game. A lot of these quarterbacks that I'm going over have 0 touchdowns and like two or three interceptions in all of their games. Moving on to the next one. This one happened this year. It is Clayton Tune, the mid-round pick from Houston University. He had to start a game on the road in Cleveland. This was a game that Deshaun Watson actually started, and the Browns shut out the Cardinals. Clayton Tune goes 11 of 20 for just 58 yards, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. You got to give him credit, though. He did have 5 carries for 28 yards. This was just a miserable situation for the Cardinals and for a rookie quarterback going on the road, West Coast to East Coast, 1 o'clock game against one of the best defenses in the NFL with the Browns. It is a brutal, brutal scenario, and Clayton Tune was just horrible against Cleveland on that day. Next, we do have, Kendall Hilton. Who remembers this during the pandemic? The Denver Broncos, they weren't that bad of a team, but I believe Teddy Bridgewater was out, Drew Lock was out, both couldn't play in this game, and they had to convert a receiver, Kendall Hilton, and he goes 1 of 9 for 13 yards and 2 interceptions. Royce Freeman, shockingly, did average a pretty good yards per carry there, but they only scored 3 points on the day. How about Taysom Hill? Taysom Hill versus Kendall Hinton. That is just amazing. when it comes to a quarterback matchup, and New Orleans wins that game easy. Latavius Murray had a crazy good game there as well. The next random quarterback that's only started a game, Ian Book from Notre Dame. Yes, he was a multi-year starter at Notre Dame. He was a pretty good college quarterback. Notre Dame never won anything crazy with him, but I do remember him making the college football playoff with an undefeated Notre Dame squad and getting trounced by Clemson in a semifinal matchup. But this was a Monday night game. Jameis Winston was injured. Another quarterback for the Saints was injured. Ian Book, this is actually better than I thought. Ian Book was borderline unwatchable, but he still went 12 of 20, 135 yards, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns, and the Saints only score 3 points. A lot of these QBs, they're just not NFL level, and teams are forced to start them like third or fourth string, and there's just no way these guys can efficiently play the position. It's just not possible, and these are the results you're going to get, unfortunately. The fact that this was Monday night made it even crazier, but you can see Miami sitting at 8-7 at that point, easily wins this game. They had Duke Johnson at that point. Wow. Moving on to the next QB, Ben DiNucci. Oh my god. This was a Sunday night game against Philadelphia. This was when Philadelphia, they had their Super Bowl run, and then after it, Carson Wentz really started to struggle. Philadelphia at this point sitting at 3-4-1. Dallas was 2-6, dealing with injuries. I am shocked that Ben DiNucci didn't throw any interceptions. Now, going 20 of 40 or 21 of 40 for just 180 yards is terrible efficiency, but I will give DiNucci credit for no interceptions. It looked like he had no clue what he was doing out there during that Sunday night game like 3 years ago, and they only scored 9 points. I mean, all of these teams are scoring under 10 points, it seems like. Moving on to the next random quarterback that only started game, Kevin Hogan. Yes, the Stanford product. Kevin Hogan with Christian McCaffrey. I remember that. This goes all the way back to 2016. Hogan, a dual threat QB, has 7 carries for 104 yards and a touchdown. This is when the Browns had a 3-year stretch where they went 3-36-1. And Kevin Hogan, 12 of 24, 100 yards, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. Andy Dalton, he was a beast with Cincinnati. He had a few really good years. He had 2 touchdowns, 300 yards, and they end up winning that. Oh, was that Jeremy Hill? 9 for 168 and a touchdown. Wow. But yeah, Kevin Hogan, who would have thought, started a single game in the NFL with the Cleveland Browns, and they got trounced. I mean, I think Kevin Hogan probably would have done better than DeShone Kizer. Remember DeShone Kizer's season? I'm going to have to make a separate video on DeShone Kizer's season. You got to feel bad for him. He was a rookie, and he goes to just the worst team in the NFL. He was already overdrafted in the second round. I remember Brian Kelly telling teams not to draft DeShone Kizer. But then moving to the final quarterback I have on here that only started a single game, Connor Shaw from South Carolina starts also for the Browns. The Browns weren't that bad this particular year. Back in 2014, they ended up finishing 7-9. This was the final game, so week 17. Joe Flacco, oh, we've come full circle with Joe Flacco now, being very elite on the Browns. Taylor Gabriel, I remember him. Terrence West as well, yeah. But this was just an uncompetitive game. It's funny because I remember the narrative coming out of this game. It's like, oh, Connor Shaw impressed. You know, he's a third string QB in a tough spot on the road in Baltimore. Baltimore always has a good defense, cold weather, and he just never started another game ever again after that. He had one start. It was a meaningless Week 17 game. He played, looking at his stats, 14 of 28, 177, 1 interceptions. It's not great, but you would figure he might be able to get 1 or 2 more starts. It just never happened. A lot of this is based on luck. These quarterbacks starting, they need multiple injuries in front of them, but I thought that was just kind of a fun little video idea to go over some quarterbacks that only started a single game. And the question is, will any of these guys start another game? Some of them probably retired. Ben DiNucci, I would say he's never starting again. Ian Book, I would say no. Hinton, obviously not. He's a receiver. He's a converted receiver. Clayton Tune, I think, will get another start in his NFL career. He was a rookie this past year. Yes, he was terrible against the Browns, but he was a 4th-round pick. That's a decent investment. You know, Arizona, with Kyler Murray there, maybe he'll have to go to a different team. Maybe Murray will get injured. I guess we'll see. Trace McSorley, will he get another start in his NFL career? It's based on luck. He has to be like a third-string quarterback and have 2 injuries in front of him to start. Anthony Brown, I don't think is starting again in the NFL. And then Bryce Perkins, I would be pretty surprised if he ever started again as well. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.